Resident Evil 2, to put it simply, is one of my favourite games of all time. Honestly, without this nugget, I don't know if I would be into video games, period. I mean, sure, I liked them before this point, but it wasn't a overriding obsession. Well, until one evening back in 1998, when a mate brought over a rental copy of RE2, and we spent the entire night and most of the next day playing it over and over again. Hell, we rented that game for almost a month straight, to the point the manager of our local Blockbuster gave us that copy, because he said we spent more money renting it than we could have, bought it. And while the first game initially didn't click with me, Resident Evil 2 was my gateway into the world of survival horror. So let's push this fucker open and have a gander. 2 months after the event at Spencer Mansion, there have been reports of persons around a neighbouring Raccoon City who have recently died and have been returned to life and committing acts of murder. And before I quote Night of the Living Dead some more, we play as joint leads Claire Redfield and Leon Kennedy, who the former is looking for a meat-headed brother Chris, and the latter is reporting for duty on his first day as a local Rosa. Anyway, after slamming into each other as they wade through the streets soaked in more brain material than a Republican bathhouse, our duo head towards the cop shop to hunker down, have a cup of tea, and wait for this all to blow over. Sadly, when they arrive, they discover Raccoon City's thin blue line is a stream of red, so they pivot this idea to rescue anyone not wanting the dine on grey matter and get the fuck out of here. But as this is Resident Evil, shit is not that simple, with the story going into grand conspiracies that will make your average Facebook user go gooey from the waist down. And we will unpack some of that guff later, but for now, let's soak in the atmosphere. If the first game was a little zombified engine that could, RE2, from a presentation standpoint, is a massive leap forward. The ambience alone is a perfect tell, with the distant moans of the undead reminding you that outside of this precinct there is nothing but death, with this drone being broken with a singular crow call, which sounds like a funeral bell. Okay, that's probably too essayist for you, especially as I can almost hear the composer hitting the crow key on their synth. And speaking of creepy, even in this apocalyptic setting, the thing Claire Redfield fears most is greasy gun sellers.
Freeze! Who are you? What are you doing here?
Don't shoot! I'm a human!
Ooh. Sorry about that, babe.
Oh, God.
What's going on in this town?
Hold on. I ain't got no clue, darling. By the time I noticed something was wrong, the entire city was infested with zombies. But don't you worry, girlie. You'll be safe in here.
Oh, that's greasy.
That's really fucking greasy.
Yeah, it's greasy.
Oh, look who's the suckling pig at the patriarchal roast. Oh, shut up, you love it. Actually, this is a great jumping on point, because just like its predecessor, Resi 2 is broken into separate campaigns, with whoever you pick first being the quote A scenario and the second being the B scenario. But unlike the first game, both Leon and Claire's foray into this horror overlap, giving our characters that added connection over just a contrived way to select a difficulty level. Sure, there will be some story and set piece beats that will be the same no matter who and what order you pick, but there are also moments that are unique to that playthrough, which can add a ton of replayability. Perhaps I'm making this sound like a David Cage special, and admittedly, the pseudo choose-your-own-adventure game stuff does have its flaws, but for 1998, this type of storytelling was quite novel, especially on consoles. And whatever teasing about this story past this point is nothing but a good-natured ribbing. So to lay all the story cards on this wonky table, after the events of the first game, and a cavalcade of cock-ups that will make Rube Goldberg spoff his pantaloons, Umbrella, those corpo dullards that caused the first itchy tasty mess, tried to cover up their crimes by awkwardly blowing up the mansion. Meanwhile, senior researcher William Birkin, who played a role in the development of the T-Virus, went underground. And during this time, with the help of Chief Irons, the leader of Raccoon City Police Department, Billy's new lab under RPD was a perfect place to tinker with his new terrifying tonic, the G-Virus. Anyway, after his employers caught wind of this new strain, they did the only thing corporations can do, and attempted to steal it for themselves. However, the hired goons they paid to grab it filled Berkey full of holes, which caused him to shoot himself with the goo and turn himself into a monster, causing more bio-based problems. And for our boy Leon, this is one hell of a first day. Now, if you're a fan of this series, you know where Leon as a character will go from here. And away from this spanking, spoiler alert, I will say he's one of my favourites. But here, away from the bingo and hilarious fan cams, he's a giant idiot. Sure, you could wave off a ton of shit by just saying he's a rookie porker, but there are moments in his story where our lead sounds like he was literally born yesterday. Such as staring down a monster who is crawling on the ceiling, and instead of shitting himself and running away, he says this.
Oh boy.
Which gives him this country bumpkin vibe. And later on, he builds a relationship with a mysterious woman called Ada, who is here to search for a boyfriend, Winky Face. And this blooming love story between the two is pure, unadulterated schlock. From meeting in a dingy car park to leaving him wounded after diving through the air to take a bullet for her, you would think that maybe, developing feelings for someone who would probably shank you for a bag of Haribos is a bad idea. But no, Leon falls in love because... Shut up. Now, this wonderful bond between Cletus and Carol can be explained away again by saying this is an extreme situation. So two strangers growing close due to the stress is plausible. But Leon, even in the face of truth, that his new boo isn't on the up and up because she is a spy for a rival corporation that wants to steal the G-Virus, he just says nah, and believes she is here with pure intentions. And yes, I am pulling the muck out of this dung heap, but Leon's blockheadness took me by surprise here. Oh well, at least we can turn zombies into chunks to wipe the romantic taste out of our gullets. While RE1 had a small yet impactful arsenal, here in 2 they went with variety. Leon, like Joe and Chris, get a shotgun and a magnum to piss around with, while Claire gets a crossbow that can fire 3 bolts at once, best not to think too hard about that, and a grenade launcher which can launch either fire, explosive or acid rounds, with the former being cack and the latter turning most things into a puddle of flesh. And sure, Leon can also upgrade his guns, which look like they discolate all his joints with each trigger pull, but all in all, it's a loadout I think is the best in the series. Which is funny because I used to hate Claire's shooters when I was a kid. Why? I have no fucking idea. Because seeing her weapons defying the laws of physics now tickles my mirth-merkin. And yes, I'm a man of simple pleasures. And yeah, you can grab other guns like the Spark Shot and other special weapons once you beat the game under certain conditions, but its emphasis on weaponry and how they're mostly over the top is an indicator of Resident Evil as a series leaning into action. Now, you might think I'm saying this to annoy those gatekeeping morons who think the tenets of this genre were set in stone over 30 years ago, and yes, I am giving them some shit. But going back to this nugget after playing it for so long, with this notion of seeing these games through my current lens, it's quite eye-opening to see Resident Evil leaning so hard into spectacle. I mean, this would be what we consider now a AAA game, a blockbuster of epic proportions, that we point and say, this is video games. So perhaps even back then, the pull of going for something wider in scope took precedent over drilling down on a so-called horror of survival horror. Or this thing that some hold dear is actually bullshit, and we shouldn't waste our time with semantic prattle for the sake of our own egos. Sorry, I'm being mean again. However, RE2's lean into action was the reason I attached myself to it in the first place, because before all this I was a scaredy cat, which, and now is embarrassing to admit, was mostly due to at the ripe age of 6 under the guise of don't tell mum, my sister showed me Alien. And while that's one of my fave flicks now, it scared me so bad I had nightmares about xenomorphs running across the walls of my bedroom for probably the next decade. So when I first saw RE1, even though now it looks and sounds like a Korean dub of the Trailer Park Boys, it was probably on par with that slice of childhood trauma. Which is funny now considering we have a remake that swings the other way in terms of theming. And while I'm not going to compare the original with this new adaptation, I decided for context to replay RE2R, just to see what they took from the original and... oh, right, yeah. Yeah, Mr. X sucks. Now, as I said, I'm not going to get into the remake here, because that will be part 295 of this retrospective, but I found it odd that they would fully lean into this lug, who follows you around for a sizable amount of this story, to the point it almost kills the game for me. But then, considering his position in the original, why is he here in the first place? Well, the lore, thanks to the Resident Evil wiki, which I can smell from here, states he is basically a declawed tyrant from RE1, sent to the RPD by Umbrella to clean up any survivors, and once again, just like Ada, wants to grab a sample of the G-Virus. And yeah, basically he's a dry run for the Nemesis that would be later used to greater effect in Resident Evil 3, but here in the original and in the remake, Exit's influence is weird, considering we have another hulking mass of flesh stalking us through the halls that holds far more dramatic weight. And personally, I'm more interested in a monster who is not only killing people, but is specifically targeting them to implant an embryo, which dramatically bursts out of their chest at a perfect time, far more than some trench-coated mook that punches people. Granted, in the original, Exeter Z exhibit is relegated to the B scenario, wherein Spotty will pop out like a poorly timed erection to slap you in the face with his mutated priapism. But his presence, regardless of placement, is supplanted by a character that is essentially the core of this entire story. So this flip-flopping between two big bastards waters down the impact of both of them. And okay, I couldn't find any anecdotes as to why Mr. X was in this game, so my opinion here is just that, but my assumption is that he is here as a foil for the B scenario character, and nothing more. And yes, I know, this shit ain't deep to begin with, but this was bugging the hell out of me during this playthrough. Also, why is Leon in an RPD uniform? He hasn't even started his job yet. While doing some digging, I came across an interview in the Biohazard 2 official guidebook with the director Hideki Kamiya, who, when questioned about why this is a thing, came out with, and I very much quote, Leon graduated from the police academy and was immediately assigned to the Raccoon City Police Department, where there have been a lot of bizarre cases recently. Despite Raccoon being a rural town that appears free of violent incidents, and Leon, with his strong sense of justice, was interested in them and volunteered to be assigned there. Syntax much. What? Anyway, he had to start his shift in the morning, but when he had to leave for the place he'd been living, he had a big fuss with his girlfriend about whether or not to break up with her, and his move was postponed. Finally, the day before his appointment, Leon drove all night to Raccoon City to find a new place to live. At the motel along the way, however, Leon had a drinking binge and woke up in the afternoon. Leon rushed out in a panic, but no matter how many times he tried to communicate on the way, there was no response from the Raccoon Police Department. Leon drove his car, keeping rhythm with his favourite music playing on the car stereo. What? At the end of the straight highway, the crimson Arklay Mountains eerily towered, lit by the setting sun. So, he changed at the motel into the uniform he'd been supplied with. And if you can't pass all that translated detritus, our director is obviously taking a piss. And this is Prime Kamiya, who was later known for his prickly humour, especially if you came at him online with a dumb question. And even then, almost 3 decades later, this memeing git is poking fun at the lore of RE2. So, I think it's safe to talk some trash about it, and that was in the official guidebook. But unlike Leon, Claire is the real star of this story. Yes, most of this is down to her, quite frankly, having a goal to find her brother, but this carrot on a zombified stick is a great start. Plus, while trudging through the halls, she comes across a scared little girl called Sherry Birkin. And yes, she is the daughter of William, and they have quite a sweet relationship. And now you know why this goon, who's gooning for a shady waifu, is, to me, a wash.
Ada! Ada! I've got you. Don't give up.
G-Virus. Leon. It's over. Just let me go.
Shut up. You're gonna make it.
It's too late, Leon. We both know it.
No. I promised you that we would escape. You just have to help me out here.
I really wanted to escape with you, Leon. Escape from everything. Goodbye.
Ada!
look mate, I know that old idiom of if you love someone you have to let them go is a thing, but probably not like that, you doe-eyed tit. And yes, I'm sorry I slipped into slagging off Leon again, but in comparison, Claire's scenario is far more interesting and consistent. And while a relationship with Sherry is still pulpy, it feels more in line with what is going on, rather than some man-child who thinks he's Judge Dredd, but he comes off as Paul Blart. And yes, I am being vague about the whole arc, because there is a ton of fun morsels to chew over, and unlike the original Resident Evil, the main thread is worth drinking in blind, rather than some bellend on the internet padding his video with a vague attempt to keep virtual bums on seats. But playing it now, I can see how goofy the tone actually is. Okay, it doesn't devolve into a complete farce, and back when I was 14 I thought this was the coolest shit ever, but now I'm shambling towards the grave myself. Yeah, this is a straight up love letter to the B-movies. And hell, when you have the father of zombie movies, George Romero, shoot a TV ad for your game, that's a huge tell that the peeps behind RE2 are huge nerds. Or the marketing team managed to grab a named director who hasn't put out a decent movie since 1985. Whatever side of your cynical bread is buttered. But I will add that the quote-unquote canon playthrough of RE2, which is Claire A and Leon B, will get you the most satisfying story. Unless you're a trash enjoyer like me, and love seeing dudes go all mushy like simpering teens with bad hair. You do you. Cause I'll be too busy gorging myself on all the content Resident Evil 2 has to offer. Now, I won't be going into the differences with every port of this game, as Biohazard scholar Lotus Prince made a comprehensive video on this subject, link below, and yes, it's nearly a decade old, but it's still the best video and not filled with erroneous bullshit like frame rates and resolutions, and yes, I miss YouTube when it was full of pertinent information rather than attention-bait tossery. But to skip all that, I'm playing the 2006 Japanese-only PC port by SourceNext using the classic Rebirth mod by Gemini, which not only translated it into English, but adds a myriad of modern things to make it run better. Look, it just works okay. And it's the most feature-rich port of this game. Anyway, apart from the main campaign, you have extra episodes like the Fourth Survivor, where you control one of Umbrella's spooks called Hunk, who after grabbing the G-Virus in the sewers, must make his way through a gauntlet of monsters to get to the extraction point. The next episode, Tofu, is basically the same as the last mode, but this time you are a stick of soy curd armed with only a knife. And just like eating it raw, this mode is for masochists only. We also have the Arrange mode, that has all the special weapons unlocked from the start, and lastly, Extreme Battle mode, which is a proto-version of the Mercenaries, where you choose a character with their own loadout, and then travel from the end of the game at the train station all the way to the RPD in search of antiviral bombs, which I guess is a pipe bomb filled with antiseptic cream that will kill the city with a fiery sanitizing explosion. Yeah, don't read into that. But once you get through this, you unlock Chris Redfield, which is a wonderful Easter egg, and it got me reeling for that protein powdered prick. And as a standalone mode, it's pretty fun. And I think that's the perfect word to describe Resident Evil 2. Even with its supposed gnarly, gory edges, there is a heart to it, and even staring in the face of terror, there is that peppy, can-do spirit from the characters that shines through. And this is reinforced by the end credits music, which in Scenario A is a serene little piano number. But Scenario B plays out with the slappiest bass slapping since the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.
And it's fucking glorious. And that's all I have to say about Resident Evil 2. And while you can see the cheese seeping out of every orifice, I can't help but love it. And now you can get it on current platforms. I say if you're getting tired of the third-person nonsense of, say, Village, where you pop the boner for the big vampire lady, then pass out due to how fucking boring the rest of the game is, then it's a perfect time to give this a go.